Hi, Professor Hamilton.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. You?
Good, I'm good. I'm good.
Hi there, everybody. Live, Rookie. We'll just start with a video and then I'll hand over to you.
Our family and friends are a big part of who we are. They are our biggest supporters and confidants, and a source of bellyfuls of laughter.
And when it comes to keeping you connected, Western Union is here to make it safer and easier with their digital services. Now your family and friends overseas can send you money without leaving home by using the Western Union app or westernunion.com. Just JKMSonline.com to register and share your banking details with your sender to start receiving funds directly to your bank account, so you don't have to leave home to collect. Grace Kennedy Money Services, home of Bill Express, FX Trader, and Western Union, doing our part to help you stay safe and connected to the ones you love.
Over to you, Rookie.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rookie Wilson. I'm the chair of the Jamaican Diaspora Task Force Action Network, Citizen Security and Safety Task Force. Welcome to our Diaspora Day panel entitled Citizen Security and Safety, Partnering to Keep Our Citizens Safe. This is an opportunity to hear from Jamaica regarding citizen security and safety and how the diaspora can be engaged to partner with Jamaica to help keep our citizens safe. Let me introduce our esteemed panelists for this evening. Just a note, this will be a brief introduction. The panelist bio with more details would be on diasporaday.jdtan.org website. I'd like to welcome Brigadier Roderick Williams, OD, JP. Brigadier Williams is currently double-hatted as the National Coordinator for Plan Secure Jamaica in the Office of the National Security Advisor, ONSA, and the Commander of the Maritime, Air and Cyber Command of the Jamaican Defense Force, the JDF. Welcome, Brigadier. I'd like to welcome Inspector Natalie Palmer. Inspector Palmer is a member of the Jamaican Constabulary Force. For 23 years, she works at the Community Safety and Security Branch and is currently the staff officer to the Assistant Commissioner of Police. Welcome, Inspector. Then we have Professor Hamilton. She is the CEO of the Lasco Chin Foundation, former Vice President at the University of Technology, Jamaica, and was awarded professorship in entrepreneurship and development. She's also the chair of the newly created Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance.
Thanks for having me.
Now, thank you. Now we have Mr. DeWitt Jeffrey, JP. Mr. Jeffrey is a guidance counselor at the Stony Hill Technical High School, a justice of the peace, leader of the founder of the True Heroes Under God Thug Ministries, president of the Gold Street Police Youth Club, and president of Area 4 Police Youth Club Council Executive, and a radio host at Power 106. Welcome, Mr. Jeffrey. Now we have Ms. Renee Steele. She's a senior policy director with responsibility for the Crime Prevention and Community Safety Branch at the Ministry of National Security in Jamaica. Welcome, Ms. Steele. Then we have Mr. Charles Clayton. Mr. Clayton is a program director for the Community Renewal Program, CRP, which is an initiative with the Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ. He has had just under 40 years professional experience working among the public sector, the international development community, and the private sector. Welcome, Mr. Clayton. I'd like to also welcome Mr. Kevin Jr. He's a decorated veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces Reserve. He is the International Liaison Officer for the Jamaican Combined Cabinet Forces, the JCF, and a member of the Global Jamaican Diaspora Council. Welcome, Mr. Jr.
Thank you very much.
I will also like to welcome Norman O. Hemon III. He's a chief federal administrative law judge who oversees Title II and Title 16 cases under the Social Security Act. Previously, Mr. Hemon served as special counsel to the United States Attorney with the U.S. Department of Justice. And he is serving on the Alumni Association Board of Directors for Jamaica College. Welcome, Judge Hemon. Thank you all for being here. So we will start today. I just want to remind you, more detailed bios are on diasporaday.jdtan.org. Thank you for one of our sponsors, Jamaicans.com, which we are now currently streaming live on Facebook. Now we will start with Brigadier Williams, who will share the Citizen Security Plan. Brigadier.
Thank you very much, Rookie. Just give me a minute to get my screen up. Right. Confirm you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll assume you're seeing and hearing me. So good night all, and happy Diaspora Day to those of you who are members of Diaspora. Today or tonight, my aim is to provide a synopsis of Jamaica's citizen security plan and to suggest ways that the diaspora can contribute to the outcomes that we are seeking. The outline I'll follow during this brief presentation is essentially to give you a brief overview of the plan, followed by a few suggestions for continued diaspora engagement. So I start quickly by just highlighting the goal and end state that we are pursuing. So the goal of the plan is to improve citizen security in Jamaica. That's the goal. And what we're working towards, of course, is a safe, secure, cohesive, and just society. And this plan that I'm going to describe to you briefly was developed through a multi-sectoral consultative process. And so I get straight into the meat of the matter, starting with, of course, with the policy and strategy framework for the plan. So the first thing I want to point out is that the citizen security plan for Jamaica is a thematic component of Plan Secure Jamaica. Now, Plan Secure Jamaica, as you can see behind me, is a comprehensive, coordinated, integrated, flexible, inclusive, and enduring approach to delivering the developmental goal of a more safe, secure, cohesive, and just society. It is that plan that now targets the long-standing challenges that we have had by effectively employing proven, evidence-based, inclusive, and sustainable approaches in addressing the many and varied threats to Jamaica's security in what we have discovered, or we're now discovering, is a very dynamic global environment. And of course, these threats include environmental hazards that include sort of health hazards we're talking about here with COVID, of course, crime, corruption, and injustice, and of course, all their drivers and root causes. So from that, you could understand that Jamaica necessarily treats the concept of national security in broad, people-centered, human security terms. So consequently, Plan Secure Jamaica prioritize improvement in citizen security as the single most important developmental reform that Jamaica is undertaking at the moment. And so significant focus has been placed on promoting and pursuing those measures that will nurture, strengthen, and protect democratic civic order, prevent and/or reduce crime and violence, ensure compliance with rules, and the setting of other conditions that will allow for a secure, cohesive, and peaceful coexistence among our citizens. In pursuing the measures outlined, all agents of the state will continue to be held accountable in accordance with the rule of law. They'll be required to demonstrate respect for the human rights and dignity of our citizens and operate legitimately with discipline and integrity in countering all the threats I have alluded to before. And all these threats, of course, challenge our public safety environment, national security, and of course, national development itself. The other thing I want to point out then is that on its own, the citizen security plan does not aim to address all the possible threats to citizen security and safety. I mean, it's not a silver bullet, but instead it works in tandem with or through other components of the broader Plan Secure Jamaica. And other thematic components or areas of Plan Secure Jamaica include cybersecurity, maritime security, border security, critical national infrastructure security, and things like communications for social and behavior change, etc. So with that said, let me talk about the outcomes that we're trying to achieve with this particular plan. And here you see the three prioritized outcomes. I hope you all can read that. But for those who can't, the first prioritized outcome there is crime and violence reduction. So no surprises there. The second one is to create safer spaces. And here we're talking about reducing opportunities for crime and violence that could arise from situational factors. And then finally, and some would say probably most importantly, is human and community development. And here we are talking about activities geared at transforming lives and communities. So what I want to talk about next are the key attributes of this plan. When you see it in action, what are the features? And so this list here is self-explanatory. What I want to highlight is that at bullet 2, that speaks to setting the conditions for significant behavior change and the transformation of communities to include the provision of more life chances for at-risk youth. And so I want to move quickly to talk about the approach that the plan takes to citizen security. And I do so by illustration. And so if you look to this chart, what I want to highlight is that the core approach that the plan takes to citizen security is that it emphasizes, or a lot of emphasis is placed on prioritizing the most vulnerable and at risk among us. That is to say, prioritizing the most vulnerable individuals and communities for focused intervention. And we expect that this will give us the biggest bang for the buck. Now, using murders and shootings as a proxy for the level of vulnerability, the image here shows the locations of the top 50 vulnerable communities for the 33-month period indicated. And the relative situation is more or less the same today. Now, if we could quickly orient you to the diagram, if you look to the legend at the bottom, the black lines on the map represent the police divisions, which for the most part correspond to the parish boundaries, except of course for St. Catherine that is divided in two. You can see there north and south. St. Andrew, that has 3, I think St. Andrew Central, St. Andrew South are among them. And then Kingston with another 3, West, East, and Central, for a total of about 19 police divisions. And the colored areas represent the most vulnerable communities in those police divisions and range from light to dark, where the darker the area, the higher the number of murders and shootings recorded. Now, as you can see, the police divisions with the higher incidence of murders and shootings are in St. James, Westmoreland, Clarendon, Kingston.
We lost the volume.
Brigadier? We're back.
Yeah, thank you. So let me just quickly share again.
Yeah.
Voila. So I hope I'll just repeat my attempt to orient you to the diagram. I think I would have gotten as far as to describe to you what the colored areas mean. And I was going on to point out that these 50 communities experience about 44% of the total number of murders and shootings in Jamaica on average over the last 5 years. And that the vast majority of those are due to gang and criminal activity. So if this is the face that Jamaica is presenting to the world, then the affected areas will be like pimples of varying sizes and severity. And so the essence of the plan's approach, therefore, is to comprehensively treat with each pimple, if you will, while simultaneously treating the entire face so that no new pimples pop up. So as alluded to before, and again, just now with that analogy, the fundamental approach of the plan is to target interventions and therefore our limited resources where the problems are, and in doing so, to focus on stemming the bloodshed, that is to say, saving lives, whilst treating with the root causes for more sustainable outcomes. So if I could move on quickly, this overlay shows the areas where states of public emergency have been declared and are still in effect today. The most recent of these be the declaration 2 days ago covering Kingston West, the Kingston West and Kingston Central police divisions. So as you can see, unsurprisingly, there is a correlation between where the states of public emergencies have been declared and the police divisions with the highest number of murders and shootings. So while states of public emergency are not part of the plan per se, the citizen security plan per se, I decided to share this fact with you because I thought you'd find it interesting, but because it also illustrates the complementary nature of the broader security measures and considerations. I want to point out as well that these states of emergency are usually declared in instances where the situation is beyond the scope of normal policing actions. And the key utility it delivers, of course, is that it helps to more effectively separate perpetrators from victims, where we have these, these areas of rampant criminality and violent crime. And of course, it allows for more flexibility and therefore greater effectiveness and efficiency in the use of the limited number of security forces personnel available, given the scale of the violence epidemic in Jamaica. So moving on quickly, the sort of root or core of the approach of the plan is centered around the clear hold build strategy. And that provides an important supporting framework for delivering improved citizen security in the most vulnerable communities, as you could well imagine. I don't think I need to go through and describe to you in detail the nature, as Jamaicans, the nature of some of these communities we're talking about and the situation that is there. But you can appreciate the need to clear and hold, and of course, subsequently build these communities. So to that end, areas are selected for intervention from a continually updated list of the country's top 20 at-risk communities using this clear hold build approach and criteria legislated in the ZOSO Act. And I talk about ZOSO some more momentarily. So the plan itself is particularly geared, you'll see, in the hold and build phases to support improvements in police effectiveness through problem-oriented and community policing, offender management and rehabilitation, as well as supporting the creation of safer spaces, as well as human and community development, all of which converge on the aim of transforming lives and communities. And all of this, of course, is being delivered through the broader supportive framework of Plan Secure Jamaica. And so a bit about the criteria for selecting these committees for intervention. So the Law Reform Zones of Special Operations, Special Security and Community Development Measures Act 2017 makes provisions, for short, ZOSO, makes provisions for areas to be declared as a zone of special operations if they meet the criteria indicated there on the screen. And so the objective of the Act is to provide special measures for upholding and preserving the rule of law, public order, citizen security, and public safety within certain geographical areas using the clear hold build strategy. And this, of course, has a check and balance of Parliament having to approve the extension of a particular zone for a period not exceeding 60 days in each instance. And so the approach to citizen security in Jamaica is therefore aligned to the object and intention of the Act, which is used as a guiding principle in the selection of communities and areas for intervention. So basically, where there's the most risk to our population, where there's the greatest level of bloodshed, those are the citizens that we're going to prioritize for protection from the state. The final thing I want to talk about, but not the final thing, the penultimate thing, is the governance framework. In all of this, we have to ensure that we have a robust governance framework in place to see to it that what needs to get done gets done, and it gets done properly, of course, in conformance with all our laws and regulations. And so from the bottom up, you'll see that the plan itself has two basic mechanisms. The first one is the operational mechanism that sort of details what needs to be done and who needs to do it, in terms of which ministry, department, or agency or entity needs to get on with a particular activity. On the other side, there's a monitoring, evaluation, and learning mechanism that treats with performance. What do we need to be measuring, tracking, and monitoring to ensure that we're doing the right things, and be able to learn so we can test and adjust and make sure the plan is flexible to the changing and mutable circumstances. Above that, you begin to see other elements of the framework. On the far left here, you see the City Security Secretariat. That is resourced by the Ministry of National Security, and they're responsible for coordinating the implementation of the plan. And so they'll drive the operational mechanism. To the left of that, right, depending on how you look at your screen, is the business group, and they are constituted by this is a cross-sectoral, whole of government representative organization that has on it the administrative heads and other heads of entities. And they sit there and they drive the monitoring and evaluation and learning mechanism. So they're the ones who will be doing that check to ensure that performance is going according to plan. So we're doing what we're supposed to do into the standard within the time frame. And they are able, when they are tracking those things, to be able to take decisions to keep things on track if it's within their gift to do. And if it's not, it will inform policy recommendations they make to the other oversight mechanism that they report to, which is the National Security Council. They'll also provide reports, the raw reports of how performance is going to an independent oversight entity called the Citizen Security Oversight Committee. And that's going to be made up almost epoch style of wide stakeholder representation. So academia, civil society entities, etc., the private sector, all will be represented here. And of course, the other ones are very clear to you, but what I want to highlight here is the Violence Prevention Commission. Their role essentially is to conduct research that will inform security policy. So they'll advise the NSC. And of course, Cabinet provides oversight, the wider cabinet. As you know, NSC is essentially a subset of cabinet, also chaired by the Prime Minister. And then from a oversight standpoint, the relevant committees and commissions of Parliament will provide the usual oversight. And then Parliament itself, you know, in respect to the various acts, is also being one. States of public emergency, if you want to look at that as a broader complementary activity, Parliament has a role in all of that as a check and balance. So that's the governance framework. So fairly robust and high level. And I think matching the nature of the or the severity or importance of the problem that it's geared at addressing. And so finally now, how can the diaspora contribute? So through mentorship, volunteerism, and the provision of resources, the diaspora can contribute to the plan in the 6 broad ways indicated here. And so the first one, if you allow me to read, is geared at strengthening and broadening continued direct support to implementing agencies in carrying out their mandate. Second is strengthening support to social interventions aimed at reducing social vulnerability to violence and crime, particularly in at-risk communities. And third, continue to strengthen the mechanisms for coordinating the efforts of the diaspora in its contribution to citizen security. Fourth, enhance the capacity of legitimate community-based organizations to participate in the planning and implementation of interventions geared at developing their communities, because that's a problem that could use all the help it could get. And then fifth, strengthen support to diversion strategies and initiatives aimed at placing at-risk youth on a path away from the criminal justice system. And finally, of course, greater focus on initiatives geared at enhancing the involvement of women in community peace and security. I'm happy to clarify further in the Q&A session, but in the interest of time, I will stop talking here.
Thank you, Brigadier Williams, for that well-organized and detailed presentation. Now we will hear from Inspector Natalie Palmer, who will share about the JCF regarding community interaction and community safety.
Good night, everyone. All right, so talking about community interaction, and from a Jamaica Constabulary Force perspective, we are talking about community-based policing. Depending on who you're talking to, they'll tell you that it started from the inception, so we'll tell you that it was from in the 60s or the 70s. But the formalized version has been around over 20 years now. And why are we doing it? Would have realized that operations alone cannot work. It cannot solve our crime problems. So we have taken on this aspect where we're saying that we need the support of other persons. Crime is everybody's business. So we definitely need the support of everybody, all stakeholders. Would have gone into communities, and you know, sometimes we go in with these preconceived notion that a community needs X. But when you get there, they're telling that this is not what we want, or it may be something that they want, but it is not the #1 priority at the time. So community-based policing allows us now to go in and we're saying what it is that you and us working together now. How are we going to solve the problem of crime? What is your priority? Social disorder, all these things that we have to take into consideration without going in with the preconceived notions. What it does is that it allows persons to know the police. We talk about proximity policing. Who is working in your community? As Roderick gave out a nice details of our policing division, the trouble spots and all of that. It is good to know who are the police that are working in your area, who it is that we can call on as stakeholders or partners. It provides a personalized approach as well. You know me, I know you. You're familiar, you're comfortable. So what it does is that it is more easy for us to get information. We're on the ground. We would have built that level of trust. I know persons will confide in us. So we have been going that route. What it allows us to do is that we would have identified persons who we call violence producers. We look at potential witnesses. We look at children, unattached young persons, how it is that we can help. We're talking about policing, but you would have seen for the most part that a lot of the activities that we do within communities is not centered around policing. Persons will tell us that we're doing social work from time to time. And it may be that we're doing some aspect of that, yes. But if we don't take it on, then we're going to find that our crime challenges are way more. So we'll be going in and we're doing our summer camps. We have this lovely one that we call our iPad summer camp. We have been engaging citizens through sporting competitions. We talk about football, netball, the whole gamut of that, including dominoes. So we have been seeing some kind of results. When we look at the table, we are seeing that there are 4 possible interventions to any incident of crime that we can look at. We're talking about the operational aspect. We're talking about intelligence, investigative, and of course, community safety and security aspects. And we look, if I'm going to take out 2 main points, we're talking about crime, gang violence, and murder. When you look at the input of community safety, would have seen that our intervention amounts to 35%. So when you add up everything, those 4 areas, our input adds up to 35%. If you're talking about domestic violence, it goes way more. That now takes us to 65%. And these are the 2 main areas that we are having challenges with: reprisal, gang murders, domestic violence. And those 2 contribute to about 80% of our crime and violence that we're having in Jamaica. We have too many unattached youth, and that is a reality. We have unemployed youth, we have those who are unemployable, we have persons who lack education, the qualifications to get a job. So it's a whole host of stuff. But when we go into these communities, we are able to identify what it is that is needed. And I'm looking and I'm seeing some of our stakeholders on screen as well, would have been trying our best. So we're talking about partnership. That is one aspect of community-based policing. And we look and we say how it is, what it is that we can do. What is the solution? And I've said before, it is not a crime, a JCF only problem. It is everybody's business. So we would have gone in and for the most part, it's not just JCF that has gone in. So I'm talking about our intervention activities. You'll see that we have partners, I see Renee on screen. We would have other persons who are actually there as a Charles as well, Roger. So we would have been, or I'm not seeing Leah, but I see the name. So Rookie, you have also reached out to us to say what it is that the diaspora can do. So we have these interventions. We talk about something we call our PVIS. It's our proactive violence intervention strategy. And what this does is allow us to kind of nip reprisals as it gets something happens. So we have a murder. We rely heavily on our station pastors for this. So they will go in, they are trained, they go in and they speak and how it is that we can minimize reprisals. We're talking about our mediation. I think it was Roger who talked about mentors. We have our mentorship program. We have our field research officers who will go in and they will say, okay, this is what we are seeing in the community. We do referrals. Renee from the ministry will tell you that we look at like a JCF or we look at citizen security and justice and we say, okay, this is happening. We have a referral program and we're on the ground every day, so it's easy for us. So we will then refer to the citizen security and justice program to say, okay, this person probably needs counseling, they need a scale, they need some kind of professional assistance, whether that's going to be some kind of assessment or something like that. So we do that. We do counseling. We're talking about, as I said before, what we would have found is that something that is really good for us is the sporting activities. Our communities gravitate towards it. So we would have been doing and putting out. So, but of course, we're talking about partners, we're talking about effectiveness of what we're doing. And we do believe that community safety, as I told you before, we're talking about 65% for domestic violence, 35% for murders. It's really good for us. So what it allows us to do is to have an effective presence in these communities. We're talking about being able to do conflict assessments. One that is really important for us is a reduction in the fear of crime. Sometimes this is more detrimental to us than the actual crime itself, because once you have that fear, persons just shut down totally, so we're not getting anything out of them. We're talking about increased reaction. between citizens and the police. We're talking about greater confidence of persons having confidence that we can actually solve or prevent these crimes. So what I've seen that what it is that we're doing, it's working. People will tell you stop policing, but we like to think it's a combination of operations and community-based policing. What it is that we would need, I spoke with some of our counterparts out in the divisions and our areas, and they're talking about COVID time. Would have seen that we have issued over 10,000 care packages between PSOJ, our private sector, LASCO, Grace, Food for the Poor, who would have given and assisted us with our special needs program. What they would have said to us that we're reaching out to the diaspora, really, how it is that you can assist us. You know, as I said, extraordinary times, so we're going to need some extraordinary assistance, and this is where you really come in. And it's not, Roger could have given a whole host of stuff. We are simplifying ours in the sense that we're saying persons need food supplies and care packages. This is what we are seeing on the ground. I spoke to my colleague over in Kingston West, and she's saying something as simple as children clothing. She's having a challenge in finding these things. We know that September is coming back up, and we're talking about things from the community safety perspective that we would need. Back to school supplies. One person told me that we need more sporting competition, dispute resolution training, and skills training. So these are some of the areas that we're really looking forward to. We want to thank our diaspora community for the assistance that has already been given to us. And we really just hope that we can partner more to see how it is that we can really solve the business of crime. So we thank you for the participation, and we look forward to more dialogue.
Thank you, Inspector Palmer. Really appreciate that. We'll now move into Professor Hamilton, who will share about breaking the cycle of poverty and crime prior, during, and post-COVID-19.
Thank you very much. Let me first of all congratulate JDTAN for the awesome job that you've done all day. So I've been following, it's really fabulous. And I also want to just use this opportunity to congratulate and to big up and support Inspector Palmer and the work that she does. It's a very tough time for policing in the world, perhaps, and in Jamaica. And I want to commend her and her team, the Community Safety and Security Branch of the JCF. They do tremendous work, and oftentimes we don't recognize it. So I just wanted to start by saying that this is a tough business of tackling crime in the top, one of the countries that are in top 5 most murderous countries in the world. It is difficult. But I want to just share with you what we in the LASCO Chin Foundation have been doing over the last few years to tackle this problem before COVID. COVID is a reality, and what we're planning to do going beyond that. So our mission essentially to help our at-risk youth break the cycle of poverty and crime. And we want to do that, and we have been doing that by encouraging them to become more entrepreneurial and to become model citizens. We have used a model we call the Sustainable Socioeconomic Intervention Model, and we see this as a multifaceted approach to tackling a very complex problem. It aligns very well with the Jamaica Citizen Security Plan that you heard Brigadier Williams just speak about. But we see this, like what is described in that plan, as only possible with effective partnership, that no one organization, not the police, no single individual can really tackle this thing. So we have rolled out 4 classes of intervention. The first is to support at-risk youths during the schooling years from ages 10 to 17. And also we have rolled out an entrepreneurship program for those who are older, age 18 and beyond, up to about 35. And other supporting programs, including a range of charitable assistance, which have now become a reality in this COVID period. And these activities that we have all align with our Vision 2030, as well as our SDGs, and a number of them that are highlighted on the screen. I want to just take you quickly through two of the programs, the schooling program and the on-job program. So we've targeted one community. We're focusing on one high school, and we work with 8 feeder schools. And we have a kind of 3-prong approach. First phase, we screen and test individuals. So we administer a characteristic risk deprivation measure, index actually, to measure risk. And we provide a briefing session for parents, gather data. We do all of that in phase 1. Phase 2, we select the students. We put them in groups A, groups B, those that we are going to target and focus, a comprehensive program, others that perhaps we should or to, but just to scale our resources as well as other assessments, they're in another group. And we provide a range of interventions, financial, nutritional, behavioral, psychological support, outreach programs in collaboration with the church, and other parental support. And in phase 3, we monitor and evaluate. Very, very important for what we do. We develop individual development plans for these kids. We gather the data, monitor the data, provide the kinds of important professional intervention that's needed as the needs arise. Quickly, just to give you a sense of the performance, this is a graph of the mean performance over time. When we look at this, the data that we have in terms of their conduct, I shouldn't say performance, specifically conduct, on average, we think they're doing well, good to satisfactory. But when we look at their academic performance, what we notice is that about 75% are performing around or just above their class average. That might sound good, but the truth is that the class as a whole is performing at a grade 4 level. We're talking about a grade 7 set of kids. We're talking about at the level of grade 4, 7, they ought to be at grade 7 level, but they're performing on average at grade 4 with respect to their literacy and numeracy skills. And of course, there are exceptions. So although they're doing well based on the class average, the class on a whole is not doing well. We thought it was important to provide nutritional support, and that's again coming from the extensive data we collected. That's a picture of the parents that have benefited pre-COVID. These are in the target group A that have gotten care packages. And we also found it necessary to provide large-scale support to the school through a breakfast program, because the food needs pre-COVID was a problem. And of course, if kids are hungry, they can't learn. So COVID hits, we decided the first thing we tried to do is to respond immediately, but informed with the data. So we asked a number of questions. I'm going to highlight 2. One is, does your child have access to internet instruments that can enable them to learn online, right? So tablets, laptop. Most of them said other, and that other was access to mobile phones, but it's their parents' phones. And so they really don't have adequate time to access, and that has been a problem in terms of them keeping up with work. We asked specifically what type of assistance you need now. Overwhelmingly, the response was food and some personal care and so on. So we scaled up our intervention with respect to the food and nutritional support. We rolled out a number of packages, 14,000. We massively found partners who were willing to work with us. We found 33 since March, March 10th when this whole thing started. And we estimate the total beneficiaries about 50,000. We thought it was absolutely essential to respond to this pandemic by reaching out beyond our target group. And that was the level of our support. And I want to say special thanks to our diaspora partners in this effort. Our fiscal sponsor, the American Foundation for Jamaica, AFJ, the JDTAN team led by Cherie Davis, UJAA, Leslie Ann Samuel, the AJAA in Toronto, Rona Donwell, and Lorna Stanley and friends in Florida. And I'm going to end with a short video to highlight the tremendous work that this Jamaican former member of the diaspora, now home, has been doing. Areas of support in this area, professional support is key. The online learning, especially in the area of literacy and numeracy, is critical. And we think it is important to continue to assess not only the psychosocial assessment of the kids, but also of their parents, because we think that there has been a lot of stress, as we all know, coming out of COVID. And of course, ongoing support for care packages. Let me quickly go to the entrepreneurship program. Since our inception, we've rolled out this entrepreneurship program, and it starts with a broad introduction to entrepreneurship, and we provide a range of information and sometimes products just to give people a feel for what it takes to really make it in the world of business. And we rolled out about 372 persons who we engaged. We had about 157 engaged in a 3-day training program. And then we have a very intensive sales program, about 6 months. That's where you separate people who are really serious about being in business from those who are not. And some persons actually go back to school coming out of it. Some find jobs, but we get at the end of it, people who are serious about doing business. We had 31 of them, and 12 were in a longer term support, having finished the 6 months. Note that we had the whole movement from 3-day training into our 6 months program was interrupted with COVID, and that's why those numbers are fairly big. In terms of qualitative assessments of the benefits of the program, just quickly, we in the Montego Bay cohort, and I just mentioned, we were in St. James, Trelawney, St. Catherine, Clarendon, St. Anne, and St. Mary. In Montego Bay, we worked with a group and they did tremendously well. One person was able to reach out to her neighbors, 2 disabled members of the disabled community that she was able to help because of the income she generated out of this program. One person showed off a new bathroom that she built. Persons were able to buy freezers, rent shop, and actually somebody paid down on a piece of land to build their dream home. So we found that people truly benefited. Quantitatively, what we were able to assess was the rate of savings as an asset that they can use in the business. When they started the program in cohort 1, only 10% of them had savings. By the time they ended, 67 in cohort 1 had savings. When we moved to cohort 2, and of course we retweaked and improved our program, we found that about the same number started, 11% had savings, but 100% ended with savings at the end. And so we see that there are really benefits of working with this group and getting them to a position where they can truly benefit. What's the significance of that savings for times like these, COVID, where sales are disruptive, they have to cope, they have to survive. And what we found when we asked them, how have you survived? What money did you rely on to cope during COVID? We noted that 63% of them said they relied on savings and 63% relied on the income they earned. We've actually been doing a preliminary analysis of a comparable group. Most of them are not earning. And although they may have comparable savings, what we're finding is that their capacity to earn, even in this tough time, was sustained. And so that's very good. Also shows the role of remittances, because nearly 40% of them are relying on remittances during this period. And some of it I know is being plugged into the business for sustainability. Let me quickly end with this video. It's a very short video that highlights the work of Lorna Stanley.
I don't think the audio is coming through. What we can do is post it on the page after.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. All right. So basically what I wanted to do was just to end by pointing to a number of areas where the diaspora could collaborate. And I'll just bring that up quickly. That's just the last slide here. There's just a few areas and, let me just do that, right. So more direct support for income generation. This is the kind of work that we're currently doing to train for that post-COVID economy, because the businesses have to be prepared for that. We are also preparing entrepreneurs for a cashless economy and to more transactions online, because that's really where the economy is heading. And of course, more support. So those are the areas I thought we certainly could collaborate with and to continue the excellent work that we're doing. I want to thank you and thank the JDTAN for this awesome engagement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. Really appreciate that presentation. Now we'll hear from Mr. DeWitt Jeffrey. He will share about the police youth clubs and discuss how they're coping during these times and how they are safeguarding youth against violence. Mr. Jeffrey?
Hi, good night, everybody. Can you hear me clearly, Rookie?
Yes.
Wonderful. Good night, everybody. Please, if you hear noise in the background, forgive me. I just came from a meeting with some young people, so I pulled over and started off the road to facilitate this meeting. I'm always on the move. My apologies. I must greet every single person who is in here. I greet you, and I thank you for the work that you have been doing. It is not being done under any secrecy. You are being seen, and the effects are falling into place. I am, as what was mentioned before, I'm the president for the Youth Council. That means that I control or supervise rather 54 police youth clubs in Area 4. I'm also the president for Gold Street Police Youth Club. It is indeed a pandemic. It is a hard season. And so because of what has been happening, our meetings are now online. So all our meetings are virtual, and we encourage all the 54 clubs to host their meetings from a virtual perspective. Coping this season is very difficult, but we have been trying our best to cope. We have been encouraging our members, or rather having motivational sessions with them about stress management and how to coping mechanisms that will really help them to move forward. We have been really focusing on what they like to do, what keep their minds at peace. And from the counseling perspective, we have been offering counseling to persons who are in distress. And I also have been communicating with schools in the corporate area that would help in facilitating that process, because mental health in this season is very, very, very important. We have also been encouraging them, as I said before, how to balance stress, how to balance your life in general, as not to totally focus on COVID-19, but remember that there's life after this. And how, matter of fact, we have been encouraging them, but guess what? This is the new normal, and that this is how you have to cope from here, and this is how you manage your time wisely. We have been partnering with stakeholders in this season to help in managing COVID-19. If I should mention mainly, of course, the JCF is one of our main sponsors, the CSS body to be specific. We have been partnering with Grace Kennedy, the Bank of Jamaica, other private sectors that would have helped us, assisted us in care packaging for our students, for our members of the various youth clubs in this trying time. We are also presently having conversations with other stakeholders, because what we think is important now is for our members to understand that hygiene, good hygiene is optimal in this season. And in order for us to really cope, we have to stay clean, as it would have been declared that cleanliness is close to godliness. So we're encouraging cleanliness. So what we are encouraging the police youth clubs in this season, that we want to, in our communities, to have sanitization stations. So we are promoting healthiness. If each community can have sanitization stations in their community, that will help in the whole hygiene effort. And accepting the whole new norm of COVID-19. Violence, of course, is on the rise in various communities. And of course, I am part of Central, I live in the Central Kingston Division that is presently under the state of emergency. What we have been doing to decrease crime are to both pre and post methods that we have been doing. We have been having sessions, empowerment session with our clubbites, assuring them that, listen, that you are still in the position to become the best version of yourself. We have been doing positive reinforcement, telling them that, listen, we know that this is a trying time, but there is still excellence in you, that greatness still lies within you. We have also been helping them to capitalize on the internet, being at home now. We have been encouraging them to find creative means and ways of earning money online. So no one needs to steal. You can also occupy your time wisely online, creating that internet is now a market, a big market. So how to use it wisely, getting familiar with the various media and modems so that the work, so being at home can become effective. Diaspora, we have what we need. How can you help? Is that so many of our students are behind in school. If I should speak specifically to the presidency of being the president for Gold Street Police Youth Club, we need technology. That's the era that we're in. So we want to host our own homework centers. We want to host our own setting that students can come in, get their work online done, and to facilitate the teaching learning experience, which is very important at this point in time. What we want also to have coaches and counselors readily available to facilitate our students in this season, to facilitate the leaders that may need help, members of the community that are in distress and need help from various angles. So if we have those things in place, intact, I think that will facilitate the decrease in crime and also the increase in education that is mostly needed at this time. We have students and children who are at home. It's difficult for parents financially, and it's a strain. We want every company, the diaspora, everybody who is in hearing of our voice tonight to facilitate care packaging, anything that you have that can give to a family that is able to facilitate them in this season. We readily accept it. And to the persons listening, because I know that I have persons and youth from the Police Youth Club listening who are tuned, it is not over. This is the beginning of something great. And we have all these stakeholders here readily availing themselves for the greater good of our nation. And in advance, I want to thank you for hearing our cry, for hearing our petitions. And we trust that after we have left this meeting, that things will fall into place. That everything that we have been working for will not go unsaid or unseen. So that is my 7 minutes. I have a next meeting to run to, unfortunately. That's my 7 minutes. And we are standing in agreement. The Bible says in Amos 3 verse 3, can two walk except they agree? And from our conversations tonight, we seem to be in agreement and we're anticipating this awesome partnership from East, West, North, and South. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffrey. We really appreciate your presentation. Thank you. We will now hear from Ms. Renee Steele, who will share with us about the targeted approach to reducing risk violence amongst younger children.
Thank you, Ruki. Good night, everyone. And thank you to JDTAN for this special invitation. To my fellow panelists, great to see you all again. So I'll jump into it. Just permit me to share my screen. Okay, so since around 2017, the latter part of 2017, when it is that there was a significant spike in levels of violence across particular focal point in Jamaica, Kingston, St. Andrew, Hanover, St. James, Westmoreland, Clarendon, and St. Catherine, there was a real need to re-examine how it is that we were designing our interventions. I heard several of my panelists fellow panelists before speak about the need to really zoom in on our youth, our children, And what we're cognizant of is that when it comes on to gangs, organized criminal networks, there is a deliberate act to feed or prey on the vulnerability of our young persons. And that is predominantly demonstrated in recruitment. When those recruitment occurs predominantly as low as grade 5, grade 6 level, and it goes into the secondary school. So in partnership with the Ministry of Education, in support of their school-wide positive behavior intervention support framework, we worked in tandem to develop a framework focusing on a targeted risk to violence reduction in selected schools and communities. There were several different inputs in terms of lessons learned that were infused in the methodology, predominantly lessons learned from our CSJP3, that is the Citizen Security and Justice Program. Likewise, there were lessons learned from interventions being implemented by members in civil society, so the Child Resilience Program on the Violence Prevention Alliance. Several stakeholder consultations were held. So this is what was done to inform this approach. The approach is also strongly aligned and in support of the citizen security plan that Brigadier Williams would have outlined. And you'll see elements of similarities when it is if I go through the presentation. So this is the outline. Let me just, great. All right, so here's the outline. And just quickly, the situational analysis. You know, we have an epidemic of violence in Jamaica. So in 2016, we had the world's highest violent death rate for females. In 2017, to which I referred, we recorded 1,615 murders, for which only 30% of our parishes contributed to that, the parishes to which I referred earlier. And those parishes accounted for 70% of homicides. So you see where it is that the violence persists, but it occurs within pockets in our country. Now, despite a 21% reduction in murders in 2018, we still recorded 1,217 for a homicide rate of 47 per 100,000, right? And at the end of 2019, we maintained the highest homicide rate in the region, and it's the 4th highest in the world. In relation to what it costs us as a country, violence-related injuries cost the Jamaican healthcare system 12% of the annual budget. Direct cost of care of VRIs is estimated at 3.6 million, and indirect cost of VRIs is estimated at $5 billion. So we ask ourselves, why does violence occur? Natalie, you spoke heavily about the risks that children and young persons face. We use this model to guide us, to say to ourselves, there is a direct relationship between the individual, i.e. the child, the relationship that that child is, experiences, so relationship with family, with peers, with social systems in the child's community, that direct relationship between the child and the wider community, and inevitably the wider society. So when it is that you are looking at the balance between risk factors versus protective factors, what we find is that our children who are most at risk are heavily consumed by an imbalance of this risk and protective factor. So for argument's sake, if you have a home with a child and a single parent, the goal is not to say, find another parent for the home. The goal is to say, let us see how it is that we can make that single parent the best single parent that he or she can be, to be a stronger protective factor to the child. What are the key factors which dispose or predispose our children to violence in Jamaica? It's our cultural norms. Jamaicans, we seem to be embedded with this culture that violence is the answer. We see that predominantly in our parent and children relationships. When the child misbehaves or is out of hand, the first resort is to use violence. Access to limited education, poverty, to which Professor Hamilton spoke about in her presentation, a lack of opportunities for young persons, and inadequate enforcement of and protection under our laws, weakened family structures, high levels of exposure to violence, and broken or insufficient coordination against key actors. So in terms of some of the previous approaches, because no system is perfect and it remains a work in progress, but there were some notable pitfalls in how it is that we were doing business as usual. So again, making reference to this intermittent coordination among stakeholders. So you have a community space and you have several actors working in that same space, not maintaining open communication and dialogue with each other to ensure that it's the persons who are greatest at risk who are getting access to the services. A lack of sustained integrated series of community-based activities. The work of social intervention and youth violence prevention takes time. It takes time and it takes money. So when it is that you're talking about modification of behavior, you're not looking at a by the night or an overnight result. We have to keep committed to the cause. And in terms of community readiness, one of my panelists made reference to it. You have to ensure that the interventions that you're going into a community, the community is actually ready for it. So the responses have to be tailored to the needs of the communities. Some of these designs were informed by a knee-jerk reaction. So there's a flare-up, and then we jump to react, as opposed to really looking at the situation and looking at the data. And this results in sometimes a misguided allocation of human and financial resources. There was also the gap between social intervention, social services, and that of community-based policing. We are now working to bridge that gap, to ensure that where it is that our community safety and security branch is fully operational and they're working for the communities, that we are there behind them giving the full support. So in terms of the framework, these are the key tenets. So there are 21 priority communities, which are a subset of the 52 which Brigadier would have referred to earlier. Focus on children from 8 to 16. There are school clusters which would have been established coming from those communities. That includes secondary schools and feeder primary schools, using music, sports, and technology as means of sustainable, positive youth engagement. A continued focus on young persons, age 18 to 29, greater support to community-based policing, and of course, working with the community to empower them and build their resilience. So those key tenets are why it is that we think that this is workable, but of course, it's not possible without the inputs of our key partners and all our communities, all our country. So again, focusing on the target age group of 8 to 16 years, there's a real need to focus on our children. We are working to cut off that feeding pipe to the gangs to reduce the children's levels of vulnerability. How do we do this? Professor Hampton would have spoken to the model in terms of examining the risks to violence of the child and the child support systems, and impacting on how it is that violence would have affected the child, the degree of trauma that violence would have posed on the child, that predisposes the child to delinquency later on in life. The approach is an integrated response, and Brigadier Williams spoke at length in terms of how it is that we are working to better coordinate and integrate. And community ownership and involvement is key, because you establish resilience when it is that the community is there from the get-go. The community articulates what the issues are, what it is that they need, and the level of support that is required. And I would have referenced some of the examples of success using this approach. So there is a CSJP3. There was a pilot that we did in four primary schools. There was an additional school that benefited from the summer program component of that pilot, and the Violence Prevention Alliance's Child Resilience Program. All three programs use elements of this methodology. So when we did a gap analysis in terms of the schools that we identified, I'll show you that soon. Despite high levels of violent crimes, especially homicides, in and around the communities that these particular schools are located in, what we found was that most schools only had 1 to 2 guidance counselors and 0 to 1 social workers. There was no standard and consistent mechanism to measure incidents of violence in the school. Again, low performing academics and the reading ability, as Professor Hamilton said, below the age and grade levels. Remedial programs afforded in the schools where you actually have remedial programs, it was not a standard asset in the school. Limited structured extracurricular activities and the limited teacher welfare programs. So for any school to function effectively, you have to work with the students work with the families, but also work with the school and its administration. And our teachers are overwhelmed. So there's a need to support our teachers through working with them to build their capacity to better cope with the situation that surrounds them on a daily basis. So this is just a matrix identifying those priority communities. As I said, it's a subset of what Brigadier would have referenced. And we worked with the Ministry of Education to identify secondary schools where it is that we, based on the data, showed high levels of gang activity in the school or linked to the school, and the predominant feeder primary schools. As of May of this year, we are currently case managing around 610 young persons coming from these schools. The ones in red have been prioritized for the 2021 financial year. And of course, we've had to be quite creative in our interactions and interventions because of the onset of COVID. This process floor program design was adapted from the Pathways to Success initiative. What it shows is a model of any community that it is that we're seeking to support or reduce vulnerability and risk. And you see where you have a child right here. It also shows you the different social systems or social structures in a community that a child would interact for any given reason. What it is that we need to do is to create a safety bubble for the child. That when the child, from early childhood, there's a system there of early detection to then know that the child needs to be referred to, for example, child guidance clinic. Support needs to be given to the child guidance clinic that supports its community to ensure that they have sufficient resources to meet the needs of that child. And likewise, the pathway takes you to the primary school, to the hospital, to the police station. So in terms of coining support, it is about communication across stakeholders, communication in terms of where are the priority areas, what are the priority needs, how can we work together to meet those needs? Again, to create this safety bubble. And as Brigadier would have mentioned, the role of the Ministry of National Security in relation to the Citizen Security Plan is to serve as the lead coordinator for access to social services. So what we have done as at January of this year, we've established a working group that comprises of representatives from key ministries, departments, and agencies who are expected or invited to implement programs within the context of the CSP. What that means is that when it is that we go into any given space and the needs are identified, we have direct points of contacts that we can then refer our clients to for them to access the services in a timely manner, The final note, a quote by Henry Ford, "Coming together is the beginning, keeping together is progress, but working together is success." So in terms of what we need from the diaspora, I will yield to Brigadier Williams' final slide, to which I fully endorse. Partnership is the key. Partnership is the key. Coordination is the key. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Steele. Really appreciate that presentation. We'll now move into Mr. Clayton, who will share about the Community Renewal Program, coordination and collaboration in common spaces, and an evidence-based approach towards intervention. Mr. Clayton.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and greetings to the panel, all my friends on the panel, and to the diaspora out there. It's a real privilege to be here tonight, and I just want to say how much of a pleasure it is for me to be working with the diaspora, who are found to be so energetic and enthusiastic in the time since we have started working together. And I know if not for COVID-19, would have been well underway with the number of projects that I've seen you working on so far. And I'm looking forward to our continuing and deepening the work that you're doing as the space and time permits. Now, at this point, I guess I don't have very much time left on hand because based on the time schedule, I probably have about 2 minutes left out of the 7. So I won't bother to go into the diagram that I had to present. I'm going to be as brief as I can be. first of all, the community renewal program is different to the other programs here. It is not an implementing entity. It was designed to support and enhance the delivery of services in targeted spaces. When it came into being, there was no other coordinated entity, and we developed a mechanism for measuring or estimating the level of volatility and vulnerability of communities. And on that basis, using an index, we selected 100 of what we considered at that time the most volatile and vulnerable communities. Since then, there has been a pattern of vulnerability and volatility established in other parishes, including Westmoreland and Hanover, which have been added to that mix. But at the time, we were dealing with just 5 parishes: Kingston, St. Andrews, St. Catherine, Clarendon, and St. James. We fully support the addition of Westmoreland and Hanover now, because there's a clear pattern established in those parishes which demonstrates the vulnerability of those communities there. Now, in terms of the mechanisms that we tried to establish a framework through which entities could collaborate and target the community spaces. We recognize, as Renee pointed out earlier on, and Brigadier, that entities had been working as in silos. And while they were doing good work to target individual beneficiaries here or there, it was not serving the purpose of changing the character of the communities that they were targeting. So as we can see, we have all been tearing out our hair over time, seeing what we can do to change the character of these communities and to change the results that we are seeing out there. And what we have all come to is the idea that without coordination and targeting in common spaces, we will not get the results that we're looking for, because we'll be operating in silos and we'll not get the big picture as to what the basic community needs are and what are the issues that we need to target and how we need to address them. So what we've tried to do is to provide a framework for better targeting and provide the information that can support this. In the framework that we're provided, it supports, we are supportive of the Civil Security Plan and Plan Secure Jamaica, because we are supporting mechanism and we are trying to provide information to give support to that and to give a framework in which entities that seek to support the framework can find a more targeted approach. So we identified 6 broad pillars that we thought would be areas that we would need to look at as lens of visibility when we're looking at our community. And those 6 pillars are governance, social transformation, socioeconomic development, safety and justice, youth development, and physical transformation, encompassing, in summary, the pillars also of Vision 2030 Jamaica. And we thought that if you were going to look at a community, you'd have to look in terms of all these areas to be able to determine where the weaknesses and strengths lay. And since then, we have worked with the Social Development Commission to identify a coordinating mechanism through what they call the interagency network, which brings all the agencies in a parish together in one common framework to look at the parish as a whole and see where they need to target. But we have also developed in the background tools that we think can be helpful to our partners who are implementing, to identify the status of our community in terms of its vulnerability and volatility, and the status of our community in terms of its readiness for intervention from any particular agency. And in that regard, there are 2 tools that we have developed, which we are now testing through data. One is what we call the Community Readiness Index, which gives an idea to implementing entities as to what state of readiness a community is for a particular intervention. And the second tool is what we call the Community Renewal Index, which is a composite index that tries to capture information on 6 areas in one single numeral. And it gives an idea of where the community is in terms of those 6 areas that are being measured. We are in the process now of determining what targets should be set, or what would be the baseline of a developed community when we measure by that index. And we will share with our partners shortly once we have finished the testing and validation of those 2 indices. The third tool that we have developed, which will assist the process, is a database, which will allow entities to be able to input data remotely and to be able to draw down on data to see how their particular performance is going and to see how their particular performance is affecting the entire picture in any particular community and in the nation as a whole. And that's an integrated database that pulls together a range of information, both qualitative and quantitative data. And we are now finalizing testing, and then we'll be sharing with our partners. So this tool we feel can support Plan Secure Jamaica and the Citizen Security Plan because it offers an avenue, a ready-made avenue for measurement and testing. So in short, what our role is to provide a mechanism from evidence-based approaches to decision-making and to provide a mechanism by which entities will be able to determine where to place their resources and how well activities that are taking place in these community spaces are contributing to the changes that we want to see happen. So that in a nutshell is the community renewal program and what we want to contribute to it. So the information I can post more detailed presentation on the network. But I hope I've not used up the 2 minutes that I had left.
Thank you, Mr. Clayton, much appreciated. So like I mentioned before, this panelist discussion is an opportunity for us to hear from Jamaica regarding the Citizen Security Plan. And we have heard from different partners on the ground in Jamaica. Now it's time to hear from the Diaspora panelists. Just a few questions to Mr. Kevin Jr. and Judge Norman Hemming. From your experiences, from how can the diaspora help based on what you have heard the needs are from the people on the ground? We can start with...
Let Kevin go first. Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, thank you, sir. First, I'd like to thank you very much for allowing me to participate in this. And I really appreciate the breadth and depth of knowledge that I gained tonight based on what's going on the ground. This might be sad to say, but I think the best thing that the diaspora can do is to be properly organized. I think at this point, there are a number of energetic, engaged people that want to get out there and they're going to change the world by themselves or by their small group. But if there was an opportunity to, I think, Ms. Steele, you said it very well, that it's about partnership and coordination. So if there can be an effective coordination among the diaspora, then I think the resources that we're already investing and we have that's out there, it will be able to address a number of the issues that have been brought forward. I don't remember who's the speaker that said that, you know, there are needs in the different areas. And I think it was Inspector Palmer. You go into the community and don't tell them what they need. They'll tell you what they need. And you've done a very good job tonight in telling us what is required. I think the next step is to do a proper gap analysis, right? And by that, I'm saying, what is the current state? How can you handle the current state, right? And then we'll identify what you can't do, and then that's where we'll fill the gap. So I think that's a partnership that I think is required, and then we can have that overall coordination so that people are feeding into that gap and not into what we feel that, you know, this is my community, this is what I want to give my community. No, it's about, there's a strategy, there's a plan in place, let's address that. Sir, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm really excited. Thank you, Kevin. Wonderful. I was blown away this evening by what I heard from the various panelists and different things that were happening in Jamaica with respect to the Citizen Security Plan. What I will say to you is this, that you are the source of inspiration for the diaspora. And in fact, the diaspora can do a lot more than just remittances. I understand you have 19 policing districts. I understand that there are 50 communities that account for 44% of the murders and gang-related crime. But the diaspora community can do a lot more than just be the source of funding. We can be the source of funding to the extent that we represent some 15% of the GDP of Jamaica in terms of remittances coming in. But I think we can do more in terms of targeted remittances for the various areas that you've identified. All right. But in addition to that, I think that there is an area of expertise and professionalism that you can also get not only on the island, but also from throughout the diaspora. Listen, you have members of your diaspora who are police chief in Toronto, who serve as a police chief in the city of Miramar, who serve on the National Security Council for the United States, right, as the NSA advisor to former presidents. You have Jamaican descendants of Jamaicans who serve as the who have served as the Attorney General for the state of California. That would have been the 9th richest country on the face of the earth if they were an independent country, right? You have people from all throughout the Caribbean who have been heavily involved in law enforcement, as well as in strategic programs that are aimed at reducing crime and violence. The Violence Reduction Partnership, which was proposed by the U.S. Department of Justice under the Obama administration, was something that I worked on, and that was put in place by a Bayesian American, right? Eric Holder, who was the then Attorney General. But even today, you still have people like a Jamaican serving, just appointed this year during the midst of COVID, to serve as on the Supreme Court of the state of Florida. You have Jamaicans serving, Kristen Clark serving as the National Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. For the Center for American Progress, Michelle Jawando. All of these Jamaican people who are serving, and it's not something that is new. We've always served in these capacities, and we've always been able to help. You have organizations like your Alumni Association that you need to leverage more. So you have the Jamaica College Old Boys Association, where I serve with Xavier Murphy, the CEO for Jamaicans.com, that's broadcasting this evening. And Xavier, through his leadership for Jamaica College, and the same thing can be done with all the other alumni associations, have targeted funding during this COVID time to make sure that the budget of Jamaica College is buttressed, not only by the Florida-based chapter of the Alumni Association, but the Canadian chapter, by the New York chapter, right? And the same thing can be done for every school, whether that we're purple and white or blue and white, right? We all can help. And we can participate and lend a hand with respect to shot spotter programs in these 50 communities in Jamaica that are in need of help. We can lend a hand in terms of the Violence Reduction Partnership that we can contribute to in terms of expertise, but also monies through USAID that can go towards running those types of programs. And let me be quiet. Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge Hammond. So my next question to the Diaspora panel is, any suggestions on how we can encourage the diaspora groups working within this field and in this sector, citizen security and safety, on meet this call for action?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead.
I don't think it's a matter of encouraging them. I believe that there are members from the diaspora, they're chomping at the bit to help. They would like to get engaged. I don't know what the disconnect is, but I reviewed a letter that was written this week, and I told the individual that I can't use the words that they're using, right? Because we want to form a partnership. We don't want to separate each other. So I think there's a lot of energy that's out there. People are ready, willing to get involved. I'm not sure exactly how to do it, and they're not sure how to do it. I can speak of different organizations right now who are saying, I want to get in, but they won't listen to me. I think the judge said it very well. There are individuals who have a lot of expertise that's ready to go. As you mentioned, we've got police chiefs, etc., who are myself. I've been down to Jamaica. I've done things. It's not a matter of we are not engaged. It's once we get there and we start doing something, what's the fruits, right? What's the return on the investment? We're not seeing the end results. And I think if there's a way that the engagement can be encouraged and that it is actually fruitful, then people will keep on coming back. But at this point, when individuals are coming out and saying, I'm doing this, and then I walk away and it's for naught, then why do I want to come back? And I think that's a challenge right now. It's not encouraging individuals. I don't know, sir, what do you?
Rookie, if I may, but if I could just respond specifically to what has worked. And the approach I would suggest is to plug into a partner in Jamaica on the ground that is engaging in a long-term, measurable type of intervention. That's how you know you have impact. And I want to say that the work we're doing in the Last Coaching Foundation, we did a lot of foundation work in getting baseline studies with the help of the diaspora. Dr. Gretel Bradford and her colleague, would you help me, Gretel, you're online.
Beverly Gordon, Dr. Beverly Gordon.
Dr. Beverly Gordon, so we're there, and you know, we did these studies that looked at, you know, the psychosocial assessments of the kids, and they did a tremendous work, and it really helped us because the scale of the intervention was significant. And so we're able to monitor, and they're also able to track the progress of these kids. So what I presented was just where we are at this moment, and in another year's time, they'll see the fruits of that work. So it's engaging a partner who can sustain the intervention. It's not one-off. I think we've seen decades of one-off interventions on the part of, as phenomenal as it has been. But the reality is that both the efforts of the diaspora and us here in Jamaica have not cracked this problem of crime. We see it persisting. And so I think what Renee said, what everybody has been saying, is that we have to coordinate much more effectively. And if we can do that and measure and sustain the intervention, we can see some changes over time.
Yeah, and I truly believe moving forward from here, we've now entered into a dialogue, right? And it can't end tonight. We need to continue this dialogue. And I heard one voice tonight from all the presenters. And if we can get that one voice to be echoed across the diaspora, right, then I think we will have that meaningful partnership, and that partnership will generate the coordination that is required in order for us to go forward. Because if we don't have that effective coordination, then we will not be able to move forward. So there from lessons learned, there have been a number of positive cases, right? So let's build on those and see that the others that can come on board to make sure that we've identified the gap and we're filling the gap and not doing something that's already been done.
All right. I'd like to just jump in. For both Judge Norman and Kevin, I'd like if you guys could join us, the JDTAN, and understand the work that we do and why we have these panelists here in our midst. One of the things that we do very well is to do gaps assessment, needs assessment. Our team of close to 500 individuals across the world, right? Our network of close to 500 individuals across the world. We don't take anything for granted. We don't approach Jamaica with no individual approach, because that does not work. And we know that over the past 40 years that has not worked. Right. And it doesn't work for one organization with 15 or 10 or 20 persons to work either. We need a collaboration of businesses, schools, police departments, any kind of collaboration that we have in the United States, in Canada, in England or UK to come together. And our network has a total of 22 countries across the world that we bring experts together under one umbrella with 16 task forces. One of the task forces has a total of 140 persons, the Education Task Force. And then we have others with 40 and 50 and 60 and 70 persons, totaling over close to 500. And we have access of over 40,000 Jamaicans on our email, all right? All right, so I tell you that to put that into perspective, that we were in Jamaica very recently in January, and these persons on the panel sat with 22 of us for 3 or 4 days, talking about all of the things that you hear them talk about. And what we went there for was just to go down and listen and ask questions so that we can understand what the gaps are. What this is an opportunity to broaden it so that everybody in the diaspora hears what it is that these gentlemen has to say, right? Or ladies and gentlemen, I mean. And I want to take up Renee when she says something about Henry Ford, when she says partner. One of the great things that we hope to have in this, Renee, is that with the committee that you're forming, that you can reach out to one of our experts in Dr. Grethel or Dr. Beverly or Carleen Tomlins, any one of the 30 persons sitting on the Behavioral Health Task Force, and ask them to join your committee so that we are at the table when you start the planning, so that we can have an opportunity to be there and plan with you, show you what we have, you show us what you have, and then we can put it together. So our teams together, our 16 task forces had come together to put on a 1 week of action during the first week of June. But COVID took care of that. But instead of providing the physical, then we turned to virtual. And so Renee and Brigadier Williams and Inspector Palmer, what I would like is, since we are now in the virtual space, we have formulated plans with La Sierra University and Loma Linda University to provide 30 workshops in professional development. We would like to have your police officers join us in July 7th through 9th, so that we have both police officers, nurses, and teachers taking advantage of these workshops that we have. And then we will get more information from them, because they are people on the ground doing the things that they do best. So we will now have first-hand experience, not just from a report that Mr. Clayton and the other guys, but then we have personal experiences so that we can apply these things and get some additional knowledge that they can use. So we customize it for your work. So I'm asking, like, Kevin, come on over and join the task force so that you understand that we take things from the ground up and we become a part of the policy making. We become a part of the rollout of projects. That's why we're here. I'm looking at all of the red spots in that Brigadier Williams had, and there in our history in America, there was something called redlining. It's where Black people were posted in particular communities, and on the maps across the country, you would show red marks that shows these are the people that are Black people in this, and then all the white people would walk out and out into the country and develop areas out there. Black people then became what you call, they don't provide any loans to those communities. Those communities get run down, and all of a sudden, the Black people are being over-policed and underprotected. So I hate red marks on maps, because it reminds me of redlining that I think about. So if we could use something like black or yellow or something like that. But I'm saying this because this is how we exchange knowledge and share expertise and share the relationship so that we can do better with this. And so, no, I don't want to hear us talk about, oh, well, we have one, a big policeman out there or another one in California. I want to hear us taking all of those guys together and put them together and say, hey, let's go to Jamaica and do some needs assessment and some gaps assessment and get it done. That's what I want to hear. Thanks. And sorry if I took too much.
We appreciate your passion. Judge Hemming, I want to go back to you so you can finish your thought.
Yeah, so thank you. This is the exciting thing. Why I like organizations like this, and I think that you can do a world of good, and all the panelists here that were here tonight, is that part of the problem for folks in the not-for-profit sector, in the religious community, in the government sector, in law enforcement, is that they worry about organizations that they become a part of, and then they have to register in the United States as agents of a foreign state if they work with that. But this organization and organizations like this give you the freedom to actually work in developing Jamaica outside of any political affiliations and outside of any strict governmental entities. So much so that you're not worried about registering as an agent of a foreign country when you're doing some work to help. And I think that if we bring together the commercial interests here in the diaspora, as well as governmental leaders in the diaspora of Jamaican heritage and other Caribbean heritage, as we bring together and have targeted remittances, not only coming from individuals to family members back there, but from churches here, from mosques here, from Jewish temples here who have relatives there, then we'll see a very different law enforcement strategy taking place, one that very much mirrors what was put together here in terms of the Violence Reduction Partnership that I worked with, and what echoes like what we're doing in Jamaica. There's so much more that we can do, and I'm excited about law enforcement in Jamaica and security. Great things are going to
Okay, could I just add one point? I think, as I said, I think this is a brilliant start to where I think we need to go. Leo, you said it very well. You've galvanized a number of individuals that's outside. I'm not concerned about them. I'm concerned about the others, right? The ones who have a lot of energy and a lot of resources, but it's not being channeled where we need it. So it's to get that strategic communication out there to individuals to say, we know that you're there. We know that you want help. This is how we want you to challenge your resources and your expertise. I think that's where we need to go to.
Thank you all. In the interest of time, I would just like to close out and thank everyone for taking part in this panel. Your presentations were great. There's a lot of questions. We have about 10 questions in our question and answer, and we have some Facebook questions. We won't be able to get to the questions right now because we're running over time for the closing ceremony, but rest assured, in the wrap up, we'll make sure those questions are answered in the wrap up. So please know that your questions will be answered. But thank you all again for participating. Appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Great to see you all.
Yeah, great to see you all. Thank you all.
Wonderful panel, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Leo, over to you for closing.
Well, thank you, boy. I don't like to just dry close off stuff like that. I really want to hear a person's wrap up. Just I'd give each person 1 minute to just go ahead and say something, what you felt of tonight. Where do we go? Just take 1 minute and say. So I'll start with Brigadier Roger. Go in the same order that we went on just now. 1 minute each, please.
Thank you, Leo. What I'd like to use the opportunity to say is that I think all of Jamaica's problems are within our gift to solve. There's absolutely nothing that we have seen as a challenge or we're spoken about tonight that we can't resolve as Jamaicans, whether we are on the rock or in the diaspora. And what we need is all hands on deck. And I think we all touched on that key need to have the partnership, to have the coordination, to make sure we're all putting all our efforts in the same direction. And I think once we get that right, there's nothing that we can't achieve. And I too am very excited because I think we are at the point now in our development as a nation. And again, this is Jamaica now, irrespective of where you are Jamaicans. So the nation of Jamaica, I think, is at the point where it genuinely believes that it can solve its own problems. And that excites me. And I'm looking forward to us realizing that through our combined efforts.
Good job. Thank you so much, Brigadier. Next person. Who was second?
That was me.
Go ahead.
I just want to thank you and your team. I know we have been continuing the dialogue. This is not our first meeting at any at all. And really appreciate that. We talk about partnership. There are some things that we can do alone. Some we need a little help. Some we need a lot of help. We're for that can assist us here in Jamaica. That I'm just happy that you're able to put it out wider for other persons to see the work that you're doing and how they can assist us. And we just thank you for that partnership. So thanks to all the panelists who are on board. Thanks to your members. We really appreciate your support.
You know, I would just say one cocoa full basket. That let us just pick a target group. Let's work it. This, you know, we're talking crime and security. You're really talking about a long-term problem. It took a long time for us to get here. It won't take a long time for us to get out. It has been exacerbated with COVID. So therefore, I think that we ought to just focus on something that's tangible, that's doable, make it small, make it doable, work with it long-term. And I think if enough of us do that, we'll be able to turn this problem around.
Sounds good. Next person.
Yes. So excellent session. It was extremely inspiring to hear the synergies across the presentations. There was a sense of relief when it is that the presentations were being presented to the wider audience out there. The Citizen Security Plan, it provides an excellent framework to which we have been promoting as key stakeholders. The framework to which we all refer to in terms of how it is that we can support, that is the guiding map. And excellent programs such as Professor Hamilton's, work being done by members of civil society, work by police. There is a place for everyone under this broad umbrella of the CSP. So again, it's just about coordinating efforts, partnership, keeping those chains and levels of communication open, and we will make it happen. It's more of them, more of us, less of them. So we'll make it happen.
Good job. Thank you.
That's me next. Well, I just want to endorse one point made by Rosalie, and that is that this didn't start overnight and it won't end overnight. There's a tendency towards impatience when things get really bad, and things are really bad now. And I can understand the impatience, but if we are not deliberate and intentional about what we do, we won't get very far. We'll just be throwing money around and doing things. So I want us to continue to be focused, continue to be directed by information, and continue to be deliberate about what we do, not jumping from one thing to the next and listening to all the chatter around. But let's just continue to support the plan. It's a good plan. And if we work together, that's one thing we have learned. Working apart will not achieve what we want. We have to work in a coordinated way and an integrated way. We will look at what is being done and see how we can complement the work of others to close the gaps. That's the only way I think we can succeed. So let us continue to work in the frame we have and intensify those efforts.
All right. Thank you so much. Next person.
Mr. Junior.
Mr. Junior.
I'm normally 5 feet 10 inches. After this conversation, I'm sitting at about 9 feet. I'm very proud to have been invited and to be able to participate. Brigadier, you knocked the ball out of the park in establishing a foundation, and I was very proud to see that everyone built on that foundation. And we're leaving with one united voice, which is very powerful. And whatever is required to do, I'm in, and we'll get it done. There's a couple vehicles that's out there. JDTAN is a very strong vehicle, and the Global Jamaican Diaspora Council, another very strong vehicle. So let's all partner and coordinate our efforts, and I'm sure that we'll get it done. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm completely excited, Leon, this evening. This is the 16th day of June that's been chosen for this enormous project that you've put together with the entire team around the world. And the reason I'm excited about that is that it's great to have an opportunity as a part of the diaspora to give back to Jamaica, because the Caribbean has given so much to us. The Caribbean has given us here in the diaspora and in the United States. They have given us Marcus Garvey and his organization. They've given us Louis Farrakhan, who is of Jamaican descent. They've given us Malcolm X, who is of Grenadian descent. And they've given us, on this particular day, one transformative figure, Stokely Carmichael, who is Trinidadian. And Stokely, of course, as you know, served as head of SNCC. But one of the things about today, this date in history, is that Stokely Carmichael transitioned SNCC from using the term justice to using, freedom, to using the term Black Power. But what's more important about Stokely Carmichael that is opportune for what we're doing here this evening is that Stokely Carmichael said this, that the time has come for us to organize the organizations. And so that's what I see JDTAN as doing, is that you're organizing the organizations. So instead of quoting from Henry Ford, I'm quoting Stokely Carmichael, a fellow in organizing the organizations. Thank you. Jamaica has a great promise and a great future ahead. When we organize the commercial sector, we organize the governmental sector, we organize the alumni associations, sociologists, psychiatrists, all together to fight and combat crime. God bless you all.
You forget Colin Powell.
Oh, yeah.
Rookie, take us home.
Thank
Rookie?
you, Leah.
Yes.
I'm here. Thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you all. Like I mentioned before, the question and answer, due to time, we will answer those in wrap up. Thank you all again. This was the diaspora. We have a call to action. We heard from Jamaica. We heard what is needed, how we can be engaged, how we can help. Now, I would recommend that we all go back to our different diaspora groups and work on this, work on the plans, the intervention with the people on the ground to get this done. Thank you all again for participating. Thank you to our viewers on Jamaicans.com. Now we'll be going into our closing ceremony. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you again soon. All right. It's a great session. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Yeah, so we're going to roll in, instead of stop and start, we're going to roll into our closing session. Where's Sue and Grethel and the Clarks, Adriana Clark. And if you guys want to stay with us, you can stay with us because there's going to be some serious singing going on here to close out the evening. Where's Adriana and Dr. Oh, there's Dr. Sue.
We're all here, thank you very much.
Okay.
All here.
But I am not going to say nothing until Sue starts her poem or poetry. Please, Sue, start right now. I'm not doing any introduction, just start. Everybody wants to see you. Yes, please.
Talk.
Dr. Sue, oh my God, I have known her for a long time. She's sitting right on my side there, so. And she was the Diaspora Advisory Board member for 2 years, and me turn up right back to her and follow her. Okay, there you go. Good introduction.
Since I'm parading the black, green, and gold, I'll do
there you go.
I Am Jamaica bit.
There you go.
I want to share later.
There you go. There you go.
I am Jamaica. I am Jamaica, my team for the clear. I am Jamaica, shout it out in the air. I am Jamaica, whether I'm there yard or abroad. I am Jamaica, and they have my umbilical cord. I am Jamaica, cause I choose to be. I am Jamaica, naturalized and free. I am Jamaica, see me standing tall. I am Jamaica, it take enough to make me fall. I am Jamaica. Wait, you don't hear about me? I am Jamaica. I defy all possibility. I am Jamaica. When me good bad. I am Jamaica. When me bad good. I am Jamaica. Me are the black, green, and gold. I am Jamaica in body, spirit, and soul.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's really good. That's really good. You know, we have a couple of guys who go and sing for us. But let's start with you know, there's a young lady on here, right? Her name is Adriana Clark. Does it ring a bell to you? Adriana Clark. You know that song there?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Soul was out of a direction. I didn't know which way to go.
All right,
I saw the clues to life unanswered questions.
Leo, stop.
She calls it.
Stop.
She's the daughter of Bonnie Ruggs, the lead singer for many years. Somebody that I really adore. I'm a loving voice like Lisa.
Yes.
And she's here to represent that and represent herself. Adriana, take it away.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction. That was amazing, and you did a great mimic of it. You sound good. Thank you so much, and I just want to take the time before I get into the song just to say thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this meeting tonight. It was amazing to just hear the different perspectives and hear a task force coming together for the greater good of a country that we all love, Jamaica. And one thing about my father is he loved his country. He loved Jamaica. He loved his people. He loved his music. He loved his food. He loved everything about Jamaica. And that's why he wrote this song that I'm going to sing for you. He wrote it for the for one of our independence anniversaries. And it's called Land We Love, Sweet, Sweet Jamaica. So I'm going to sing that for us as we are celebrating Jamaica, as we're talking about Jamaica. And I know that we all love this country, so we can definitely all agree with the lyrics of this song. So here it is, Land We Love, Sweet Jamaica. There's a land not so far away where the sun keeps shining all through the days. And this land that we all love, God gave us the wood and the water, blessed by the moon and stars above. Yes, sweet, sweet Jamaica. Oh, it's beautiful, Jamaica. Every day feels like a holiday. Sweet reggae music playing from Negril to Morant Bay. It's sweet, sweet Jamaica. Oh, it's beautiful Jamaica. 'Cause Jamaicans, we are #1, world leaders and champions, prophets and musicians. Out of many, we are one. Sweet, sweet Jamaica. Oh, I love my beautiful Jamaica. Irie, 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 Jamaica, yeah, yes. It's sweet Jamaica, our land we love. Na 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 why, I say na 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 why, na 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 why, oh na 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 why, I said na 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 why, oh oh na 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 why, oh na 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 why. It's sweet, sweet Jamaica. Amen. Sweet, sweet Jamaica, a land we love. Thank you so much.
Hey, do you know Negril to Maran Point?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
yes,
okay, because
yes,
you're better. Yeah, you can't be singing that song. You don't know. All right.
He made sure he took us. He made sure he took
all
me,
right,
yes.
all right.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it. Thank
man.
you
Respect,
so much.
respect. Stay with us. Stay with us.
Yes.
All right. So let's go into what today sounds like. What it looked like. What did it feel like? I want Dr. Sue and especially Grethel and Rookie and Adriana and Andrew. If you're listening to any part of this, please join us. Tell us what it is that you felt today. What tell us about the sessions. Grethel.
Oh, I thought the sessions were fantastic. Just from the beginning to the end. And I'm going to tell you the truth, I'm tired.
Oh, but you're not too
Yeah?
tired for because
Okay.
you know the fantastic thing.
Sitting in this
Okay.
place
All
since
right.
8:45. I am tired.
Okay. Go ahead and tell us now.
But it was absolutely, I mean, it was fantastic. And, I tried all the way through just to kind of like see what I got from it. And I'm just taking like one word at a time, like one sentence.
Yes.
Parents and other able parents, other able persons,
yes.
Don't give up. Don't give up, right? There are lots of abilities, lots of strength, lots of creativity. And so we have to, as a network, tap into that, okay? Because they have the strength. That's the first one. Education, words, innovation, vision, tenacity, vested, dedication, and true citizenry. Is that the right word?
Citizenry, yes. That is
Let
good.
me say it right.
It sounds good. It sounds good. It sounds good.
So good, right? So good. All right. Leadership. For the youth, what stood out for me is that they see themselves as shapers of the future.
Absolutely.
Right? They see themselves as being able to reach, to engage, and really get to the young people so that they can preserve our planet that we are going to leave, that we've made such a mess of, okay? The media, I thought what I got from them was that change is good. It's not a bad thing, right? And we can know what the changes are and move with the changes. Don't get left behind. Health, there's a lot that's been accomplished. A lot more needs to be accomplished. Get in the know. And because if we get in the know, then we are able to help. Future employment with Cherie, always be forward thinking. Don't stay back. Make sure that you are strategic, you're intentional, and that you make use of the digital space that is there, right? And I love one that Kadia Francis said. She said, everybody can eat food. Right? So that means that there's a job out there for everybody. Everybody can go out there and find what interests them, what engages them. And I think I'm going to stop right here, sir.
Yeah,
because
I'll give the rest.
I see where there was so much
Sue.
about saving lives and transforming lives and communities. And
give the rest to Sue. Let me tell you why. Sue, I go copy tech. Sue, I go copy tech. Yes, Sue, I go copy tech. Sue.
Yes, sir.
Please don't copy tech.
It was so rich. And like Gretel, me tired. I learned today that I'm really able to multitask because I was working today. I mean, my job work today.
Yes.
And I was still engaged and plugged into this all day since 9 o'clock this morning. Jesus. So I had to pat myself on the shoulder because I was able to maintain both, but this was rich. And I was saying to myself earlier, as I was tying my head, that had this been on the ground, I would not have absorbed so much as I did today. I would not have been able to attend all the different, because number one, you're going to have concurrent session and you're going to have double session.
You have lunch, you're
going to miss something. But because it's here, I was able to take in everything. I didn't miss anything. So that was good. And at first I thought, oh my God, from 10 to 10, how is that gonna do? But what's the word? I was captivated. It was so engaging. I mean, one after the other, the information was fresh, it was new, it was honest, it was real. It was what I needed. And, you know, I just feel that I'm sorry for the persons who missed out on this.
Oh my God, thank you
Because
so much.
especially those who are asking about what is being done. And in the opening this morning, Leo, you spoke about the first 10 years of the Diaspora movement, advisory board movement, and how hard it was and nothing was happening. But it's like the bamboo tree, you know, it stays underground for years
Before it come up.
and getting itself together. It was the foundation. We were putting things together, and look how we blossoming now. Look at what's happening. Those naysayers that were kept saying that we were empty vessels and that nothing was happening and we just all talk. Where are they now? You know, what are they saying? Are they really seeing that things are coming to fruition? And that it took time, it took energy. I lived it for 2.5 years. I know what it took to get us to this place today. But I'm happy, I'm pleased. You know, unlike Gretel that was able, because I was actually working, like I said.
But you're doing great, you know. Let me tell you something. You're sending ice through my vein, you know. It's true. I mean, that's how I felt this morning when I was talking. I said, where are those guys now? They're not writing talk shop anymore. They're actually coming to us for information now.
Right.
So I'm very happy.
That was able to write down things from everybody that was talking and verbatim. And I wasn't able to do that because I was otherwise engaged as well. But I had to put a piece together on how today felt for me.
Well, we're going to get to that right now. We're going to get to that right now.
I won't share.
We want it. You can't write it for the show and then don't give it to us. That don't make any sense.
I can give it to you and you can post it with all the other notes.
So you can't say
it. All right.
So lady coming back to sing, you know, so, you know, she go give us one more. Right, Adriana, before... All
right, make she sing. When she finish sing.
All right. Where's Andrew? Andrew, are you there? Come on, cameraman.
Andrew, come
sing
on.
Come sing out for us, Andrew. Bust out. But you look like American, you know. Andrew look like American. Andrew.
Everybody, good evening.
Okay, there you go.
How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's hearty.
Very hearty.
You sound like American.
Hearty.
You sound like American.
We got to switch it up, you know?
Yes, very well.
We got to throw in a little accent every now and then, you know?
Yes.
Accent sound like accent.
Oh, good.
All right. So I was thinking really hard about what song would be appropriate to celebrate this wonderful day of activities.
Andrew, your audio?
We're hearing him.
We're hearing him very well.
We're hearing him very well.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Want to hearing me good?
Very good.
Okay,
good.
Fantastic. So let me jump on into this song. These are you might recognize both of them.
All right.
Time boy, I may never see you.
Jamaica, land of beauty, we promise faithfully to serve thee with our talents and bring our gifts to thee. Jamaica, we will always, in honor of thy name, work steadfastly and wisely, and never bring thee shame. From riverside to mountain, from cane field to the sea. We are proud Jamaicans, and our past we can't forget. For the power which brought our fathers through lives strong within us yet. We are proud Jamaicans, and our past we can't forget. For the power which brought our fathers through lives strong within us yet. Today in sweet Jamaica, a joyful song we raise. We count our many blessings, we lift our voice in praise. For God has brought us thus far, and He still holds our hand to bring us to a brighter day. In this our native land, we are proud Jamaicans, and our past we can't forget. For the power which brought our fathers through lives strong within us yet. We are proud Jamaicans, and our past we can't forget. For the power which brought our fathers through lives strong within us yet. The struggle is not ended, full freedom we must find. For though they freed the body, only we can free the mind. The game is not yet over, we've merely won the toss. There are more mountains we must climb and many rivers to cross. But we will cross, yes we will cross. For we are proud Jamaicans, and our past we can't forget. For the power which brought our fathers through lives strong within us yet. We are proud Jamaicans, and our past we can't forget. For the power which brought our fathers through lives strong within us yet. Our hearts salute Jamaica, triumphant, proud and free.
Oh, he bust it up. He bust it up.
Whoa.
Bust up what?
The glass them.
What did he bust up?
Are you Bunny Rug's son? Your name Clark too.
No, I'm the Clark.
One more time. Do that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he said he bust it up.
That was good. That was beautiful,
really,
Andrew.
listen, I have not heard that song since I was a little kid.
Yes, exactly. A long time we don't sing that song.
That is one of the
God.
songs.
That's a really, you make it sound so good and natural and sweet. Oh my God.
Because our songs, the songs from our culture are to be revered and celebrated.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes we think
Somebody say young Leo. Leo,
yes,
somebody so young can sing it so good so that you can remember it.
True.
Yeah, man, me applaud people like Andrew. You see, me can't sing, you know, but
Donna is on the line. Donna is on the line. So Donna, before Adrian comes back, tell us what you gleaned today from the session.
Well, like Ratel said, first of all, I'm tired, right? I've been at this very seat from 9:30 this morning, so.
No, from 9, because when me come at 9 o'clock, you was on.
Yes, true. I'm 9 o'clock, so, and you know, the hair still, everything's still perfect, right?
Yeah.
No, we had a wonderful time. It was definitely an experience. My job was busy sharing it out on social media all over the place, all the different pages, and everybody was then sharing it. So people didn't even realize, they're like, oh my God, the connection, they loved it. So I'm glad to be a part of this, and you guys make it COVID, lifestyle so much fun. I'm proud of our task force, and I'm proud that we are an action. That's a big difference. We work. We don't just talk. We do the walk too. So
yeah,
I'm just glad to be a part of it. But yes, I'm tired and ready for my glass of wine. I didn't want to drink, because if I drink anything, then maybe I would have take somebody off or send,
Adriana, are you there? Come save her for me, please. Adriana, I don't want anybody to get drunk on this show.
Right?
Adriana,
where are you? Going to try to take you off, Leo.
All right. It looked like Adriana's sleeping. Is Adriana sleeping?
You're hugging that dog too tight.
No,
That's the picture.
I know.
Me sleep? No. I'm awake.
Are you
Andrew,
back?
what an awesome voice you have.
What a nice voice he has.
Yes, I was blown away.
We love your voice too, Adriana. We want another song from you.
Man.
Bust it up too.
Leo, Adriana has a radio show also. What are your times, Adriana?
Oh, yes. So I'm on Caribbean Rhythms Radio Network every Sunday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then I'm also have my show Happy Hour from Wednesdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. So you can always log on to CRRFM.com, or we also have a Facebook. I shared this meeting on our Facebook as well, so you can find us there.
All right. Great. All right. So bust it up now.
All right. This song I will sing. This song came to me just as we were talking about this Zoom meeting, and it just reminded me that everyone is so in their place and everyone's coming together and everyone knows what they need to do and how we need to get things done. And it kind of just reminded me of this gospel song by Sanak. I'm sure many of you know. It goes, "We are a chosen generation. We're called for to show His excellence. All I require for life, God has given me, and I know who I am. We are a chosen generation, and we're called for to show His excellence. All I require for life, God has given me, and I know who I am. I know who God says I am, what He says I am, and where He says I'm at. I know who I am. I know who God says I am, and what He says I am, and where He says I'm at. I know who I am. I'm walking in power. I'm walking in miracles. I live a life of favor, 'cause I know who I am. I'm walking in power, and I'm walking in miracles. I live a life of favor, 'cause I know who I am. Take a look at me, I'm a wonder. Hey, it doesn't matter what you see now. Can you see His glory? 'Cause I know who I am. Take a look at me, I'm a wonder. It doesn't matter what you see now. Can you see this glory? 'Cause I know who I am.
Yeah!
Amen.